So Terry's a lifelong learner, like many folks here. Terry's a lifelong learner herself, and she thrives on helping people navigate life with clarity, resilience, and my favorite, kindness. And she might say, and I'm guessing because I didn't ask her, but she might say this is her why. This is her reason for being. She started mindful stress management to help individuals and organizations deal with stress and to eliminate those roadblocks to our own success and well-being. Now, I didn't know this, you've been a meditator since you were a shy, anxious teenager. Just admitting that you were a shy, anxious teenager to me is an impressive thing. She also lived in Japan for 5 years where she studied Zen meditation. I didn't know that, which is great. Her mindfulness practice and training and she worked with teams and organizations, and this offered a really, really unique perspective on that work. So today, again, is the 4th session out of 6, and I'm really glad to have her back. If you missed her those first 3 sessions, they're up on our website in the blog, buried somewhere. Eventually, we're going to collect them into a single thing so it's easier, more accessible. And she has tools for us on her website that I'm hoping someone will put the link in the chat so everyone has access to those tools again, and we'll do it again and again. But I just want to really say thanks for being here again, Terry, and teach us.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that lovely introduction, that you took time out to dig up some other stuff about me. And so thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all, and just to have this series and not just a one-time meeting, that kind of comes into your lives and then we forget about it, right? But when we meet ongoing for a few times, and we'll do it for 6 times, this is the 4th of 6, then some things start maybe settling in and like, oh yeah, I remember that one. And so there's some real learning that can take place, and some perhaps transformation of sorts. So today we're going to, let me share my screen. We're going to talk about our thoughts. How about that? And the topic is, whoops, there it is. Okay. Can you see my screen, everybody? Yeah, okay. So tilting the negativity bias. Change your thoughts, change your brain. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Sometimes I really want to switch it out for another one. Not so easy to do, but there are some little, tips and strategies that we can do. So one of them, and I'd like to do this as I introduce the workshop. Well, let me tell you the objectives and then we'll dive into that. So essentially just recognizing how the brain and nervous system react to stress. We've talked about that a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of go over that quickly during the hour. Understand the negativity bias. It just gives us information about how we have evolved to do the things we do and think the way we do. And then learn how to shift thoughts. Tilt the negativity bias a little more toward the positive. We're not ignoring. This isn't about positive thinking at all. So that'll get clear as we go on. Then we'll just do like a 1-2 minute pop, which we've learned. So we'll just dive into that, which is, what is it? Got it? Pause, observe, proceed. All right. I had to remind myself. And then we'll look at unpleasant and pleasant thoughts, so we can sort of feel how those impact the body, and then applying it to daily life. So what I would like to do, we're going to stay on this screen for a while, and you can go back to your gallery view and we can see everyone, because I want to just see, we go through our days with many experiences, right? So we see many things, we hear many things, we have discussions, we send texts, we send emails, we talk to people, we take walks by ourselves with people. There's all kinds of things happening. We look at things. So there's things that happen that feel pleasant, things that are unpleasant, and things that are neutral all day long. This is happening. So I would like to ask you to think about a pleasant experience you had today. something, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It could be as simple as, for me, my dahlias are like huge, and I cut 2 of them. In fact, I think I'll show them to you just for fun. And considering these, look at those babies. So I just loving these, growing them on my little balcony. So anyway, thinking of something pleasant. And when I looked at it, it just like filled me with, and I spent a little time taking that in, which is one of the practices we'll do. But I want you to think about something pleasant that happened to you today. Maybe it's like, oh, I didn't even remember that until now. We can rewire patterns of thought, right? It's like you learn a new thing. We know that there's neuroplasticity. Our brains are not fixed. But what we think about, what we do, what we pay attention to creates the neural pathways in our brain, creates those grooves. And we can impact those. They're not fixed. So anytime you've learned, an instrument, to play an instrument, or to play a sport, or even taking a new direction. Somebody mentioned taking a new way into where they were going. This activates new neurons in the brain. So we can impact these neurons, but first we need awareness of what we're thinking about so that we can tweak it a little bit. See what movie is running in my mind. Is my mind, do I have a propensity towards threat or grievance or regret? Or maybe is my movie more around thoughts of gratitude and seeing what's working in my life, not ignoring the challenges and the discomfort, but sometimes we have a certain propensity toward one or the other. And this, of course, has so much to do with, who we are, our upbringing, our socioeconomic class, our culture, our race, our neighborhoods, our parents. I mean, so much to do with our upbringing. And also it has a lot to do with our lifestyle choices and what we're paying attention to. So the beauty of this is that we can shift how we feel by shifting what we're paying attention to. So again, we first need to notice what's happening, what we are paying attention to. So we're going to do a little practice, about a 2-minute pop. And if you've been here before, you know pop. And pop simply stands for pause, observe, and proceed. So let's just take a couple minutes to just land, sit right where you are. You don't have to change a thing. And we're just going to do a little mindfulness practice. And part of this is to just touch in with where you are as you are and begin to notice our thoughts a little bit in this moment, in this day, on this Friday. And you can close your eyes if that's comfortable. It's not necessary. And just starting to notice your breath. We are breathing. There's breath moving in and out of the body. Notice the inhalation, the exhalation. So we just pause from the action, and then we observe and open to what arises in our body. Maybe you notice sensations in the body, tightness, pulsation, discomfort, body sitting on the chair. So becoming aware of the body, allowing what's there, and checking in emotionally, any feelings, whatever they are, just acknowledging, okay, that's what's here now. When we stop doing, sometimes we notice things that have been there, but kind of put on the back burner. So here we just observe and open to what's there, and we allow in our feelings. And then noticing thoughts, what's on your mind, whatever it is. If you're hungry, worried, bored, you know, whatever that thought is going through your mind, curious, noticing the thoughts. Coming and going. 55,000 thoughts a day or so. So here we just recognize what's on my mind right now. And then we proceed. So we close this little sitting, but we proceed with awareness that I'm right here in this moment, perhaps a little more connected to myself as I am, because I've taken this pause. And perhaps another invitation to notice that you're safe. In this moment, we're safe. And maybe an intention, how you want to show up for the rest of the day, for example, with calm, with passion, with love, with focus, whatever it is, with energy, with compassion. And we proceed and just to the next moment, and I'll ring this bell just to close that. Okay. And that's just a 3-minute little mindfulness practice, little pause, so that we can see what is on our mind. How are we? Because we do know that neurons that fire together, wire together, what we do, what we think impacts how we feel. So I want to show this video to just kind of, and whoever said they were just in Manhattan, this will really resonate with you. I think that was, yeah, I'm sorry, forget your name. I see you. Okay, so just watch this video. It's 1 minute long, and take it in here. I'm going to open this fully. Okay, can you see the black screen? Okay, good. And here we go. Okay. Here we go. So same scene, same people, same view, very different sentiment, right? Very different feeling. So it's just, you know, to point out how the nature of our mind colors what we see and what we experience. So just to be aware of it. It's not to say, oh, I'm bad if I'm, you know, experiencing the noise and the chaos. It's just to notice with what perception am I seeing the world. So our perception colors everything, everything. So mindfulness is also about noticing that, paying attention to how we're perceiving things and what's on our mind. So what does all this have to do with the negativity bias? So Rick Hansen, who is a local, wonderful teacher, I see some heads nodding, has written many books about the brain, Buddha's brain, hardwiring happiness. He's sometimes considers himself a neuropsychologist. So he studies a lot about the brain. He says the mind is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive experiences. So what is that? From evolution, our brain grew to protect ourselves from danger, right? And so in order to protect ourselves from danger, it had to be alert to a possible predator, because that predator could kill them. And so the brain responds much more quickly, they say a fifth of a second, to a negative input or an unpleasant input or a trigger, 1/5 of a second, whereas a pleasant experience takes a third of a second to respond in the brain. And this is very important. And just to know this is really important. And it has saved us as a species. But these dangers that our ancestors way back when were having to be alert to were truly dangers that could kill them, right? They were truly threats that could kill them. Now the threats that come up in our lives are generally not things that can kill us, like traffic, or, some things of course can, but worrying about politics generally is not going to kill us unless it gives us a heart attack. I don't know, sorry. But, generally they're not. But the body is still responding. The brain is still built, number one, hardwired for survival. And so it tends toward the negative. And that's the negativity bias. It doesn't mean we're negative. It just means our brain becomes more alert to a trigger than it does to something positive. And this really can save our life, but also it can just tilt toward that perception of seeing things from a kind of an unpleasant perspective, and maybe not so. It doesn't generate well-being. It doesn't generate you feeling in control of what you're doing. So we want to look at that. And the other thing I just want to say about this, which I think is really important. So the stress that we're facing now is not necessarily going to kill us as it did in the past. But we can be, if we are trauma survivors or we've suffered from trauma, whether it's a car crash or something we've had that's very traumatic in our life, or something from childhood that has impacted us, those triggers will light up, and they'll be even stronger for people who have some trauma or PTSD. So there's just to be aware of that. If that's an experience in your life, there may be even a heightened sense of the negativity bias, because the brain, especially as a child, if it knew there was danger, it became ultra sensitive to protecting itself, right? So we could stay alive. So that cue is even highlighted even more, and those triggers are more alert. So that's a really important thing to be aware of if that's part of your experience. And people are talking a lot more now about trauma-informed mindfulness, because we know that so many people have suffered trauma, which may have turned into PTSD or not, but we need to honor that in ourselves and do what feels safe. And even in doing practices of mindfulness, don't do anything that doesn't feel comfortable. Open your eyes if that feels better. Look at something in your house that makes you feel comfort. Because sometimes closing our eyes and breathing can trigger some fears, some feelings of unsafety. So you are in control. So keep that in mind when we're doing mindfulness practices. So the brain looks for, reacts to, stores, and then recalls negative information first over positive information. Okay, that's just the general tendency of the brain. Some people it's stronger. And John Gottman from the University of Washington did research saying that for every negative interaction that happens, say within a relationship, we need 5 positive experiences to counter that, to level that out. So the brain is looking for safety, always looking for safety. Yeah.
I'm curious. We have a little chat on the side here, but I'm curious how it seems to me that our president might know this and just flood us with constant, all the time, negativity, 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 fear, reasons to be concerned. And then you get that into the hyper headline, 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 headline. And then you get that into the social media bubbles we're all part of. And then it just becomes all danger all the time, which means you can never escape. There isn't an escape until you go to sleep at night. There's not an escape from the news, and the news is pretty consistently horrific.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely true. And if we look at, media and just the press, if it doesn't bleed, wait, how's that go?
If it bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads, because it activates that part of us that feels in danger. So I better listen. I better pay attention. It's such a good point. And, I think his people are all over that, keeping us in fear so that we get, we get defensive or stress activated. And yeah.
Can I ask a quick question, Terry, or do you want to? Please mention John Gottman about needing 5 positive experiences over 1 negative. What does that mean? Like, do you mean in order to not be in relation, or in order to preserve the relationship, or like what is that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it essentially means in order to preserve a connection and a sense of trust with the other person and keep it going. So, if you're in a relationship where it's just like another negative thing, and the positives just aren't up there. I mean, we know that kind of from experience. You're not going to feel connected to that person. You want it. So we know if a negative thing happens, work a little extra harder to increase those pleasant, positive experiences together. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a really, and all of advertising looks at this too, right? You're not good enough. You're not tall enough. You're not short enough. You're not thin enough. You're not fat enough. You're not, whatever. It's not enough. And if you buy this, or if you do this, or if you wear this, or if your hair color's like this, you're going to be better because you're not good enough. So that activates, because that activates our stress reaction, right? Not good enough. So that's that negativity bias too. It's dangerous to not be enough, to not be loved, to not be cared for. And our status and all of that, it activates the stress reaction. And so we go into this mode of defense. And we talked about before, when we're in that state, our prefrontal cortex is not really working. Because it gets clouded by the fear and the danger and the defensive, the fight, flight, freeze kind of reaction and the stress hormones. It gets a little, these fibers kind of cloud it. So we really want to recognize this so we can turn off the news if it's causing all this angst. We can shift what we're thinking about. We can say, I'm turning on some nice music now. Forget this news for a while so I can calm my system. We have control over that. And then that enables our brain to kind of come back online. And that's the part of our brain here, this prefrontal cortex, that allows us to problem solve. It's the executive part of our brain, but it's not working if we're in fight, flight, freeze mode, stress reaction. So let's do a little practice to just look at and sense, more than look at, but feel how it is when we recall an unpleasant experience. So we don't want to go anywhere traumatic. The unpleasant experience is something like there was traffic today and, or whatever it is. I was on a Zoom call and we didn't get anything done and nobody could unmute and whatever that thing is. So thinking about, I'm not talking about this one. Okay. So thinking about something, and we'll just do this little practice. And what it is just like you recall it. And then I'll walk you through the same thing we did with POP, essentially, where you just notice the physical sensations as you recall it, the emotions you might experience as you're recalling that unpleasant experience, and the thoughts in your head about it. All right. So looking at something that, not too pleasant, not too joyful, but not traumatic. Okay, we don't want to go to something traumatic. Does everybody have something? Yeah, unfortunately, we all do. Okay, that's life. This is life. So you can close your eyes if you like. You don't have to. But recalling that experience, whether an exchange, a conversation, whatever it was, recalling that experience in your mind. Who was there? What happened? Maybe noticing any sights, visual that you took in. Any sounds, recognizing any sounds. And as you recall the situation, how do you feel in your body? Notice any sensations in the body. There might be a tightness or a certain area that's activated from this experience, in the face, the shoulders, the belly, wherever, or maybe not, maybe neutral, and that's okay if you're not sensing it in the body. And if you recall that experience, you may recall what it felt like to be there. And then you may recall, as we're feeling, what were you feeling? What were your emotions? And then what were your thoughts? Your thoughts about yourself? What were you telling yourself? Your thoughts about the other person or the other side of this exchange? And then you can open your eyes when you're ready. And just looking at something in your home, in your room, that's like present time, pleasant. You are here, you're not back in that experience. Okay, it was just a memory. It was just a thought. And what happened to your body? What did you notice in your body? If somebody wants to unmute and just share, what did you notice any sensations in your body in recalling that? And or emotions and thoughts. We'll just do the whole jump thing.
Body relaxed.
Your body relaxed. Okay.
Mine did the opposite. When I was thinking about it, I was tensing up and I was worried about my own fragility, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Just feel my jaw just clenching, and then the first immediate thought that comes to mind, besides like, you know, self-loathing things I would say to myself, is like just swarm of bees. Like that's like all I could hear was going on in my mind.
Yeah. So what just wonderful observations, just to notice what's in your thoughts, what you're telling yourself from that, and the noise. Anybody else? And the tightness in your body, absolutely, that can activate.
I felt overwhelmed, tightness in my shoulders, but having you like help us get there, I felt like comfort and reassured, and then helping us get back into the present. So that maybe what Nancy was feeling, I felt some relief from that and like some sense of calmness. But going back into that memory, it was overwhelming and stressful.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do that.
No, it's good. And having you like guide us through that, it was very helpful.
Yeah. And so, yeah, well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And so we know when we go into that, and we know right now you're safe. Right now in this moment, that is not happening, what you were thinking about. Right in this moment, you're safe. This moment you're here. But when we get stress activated, remember all these things were probably happening in your body. Your heart rate increased, blood pressure went up, shallow chest breathing, muscle tension. our immune system gets weakened, not from one time of recalling, but over time, the immune system can get weakened. But these are not, the digestive system slows down. These are natural things that happen when we're in stress reactivity, which is now most of the time. We are really in chronic stress. And so more than ever, we have to, if we want to sustain this life that we're in, this new reality, these changes, we really do have to prioritize calming down at moments throughout our day with a minute, a pop, a something, a breath, a looking at a flower, a stretch, to oscillate. Yes, oh God, I'm heightened, all these stress reactions, and we want to bring it back down. And then we go back up. It's like interval training. So we really have to prioritize this right now, because this chronic stress is going to burn us out. It's very unhealthy for the body. Imagine all this happening over and over every day. It's heart rate, it leads to all kinds of things, disease. So we're going to counter that practice with, well, this is what happens to the body, right? Just real quickly, the HPA axis is the hypothalamus gets a message, stress alert, activates, tells the pituitary gland, sends out these hormones, and then this hormone that activates the adrenals, and the adrenals activate, bring cortisol and adrenaline into the body. And that's what then makes our heart rate go fast and all this. So this is the HPA axis, and this is happening all the time. And it'll stay elevated until it's like, oh, okay, a calm, a breath, a moment of pleasure, something, running, exercise, dancing, breathing, whatever it is. And then it gets the hypothalamus is like, okay, no danger. The brain is always scanning, right? And so it then decreases those stress hormones that were flowing through the body. Okay, so that's just a little bit about how that works. There's much more to it, of course. But the HPA axis is just an interesting thing to see how it starts in the brain. So now we're going to do the same kind of practice, but we get to ponder a pleasant, a joyful experience. It could be the one you thought of earlier. It could be a different one from your memory. And I'm going to walk you through the same kind of practice, okay? So thinking of recalling a joyful experience, you all have it? Pleasant, joyful, it could be today, it could be from the past, long ago, whatever it is, a favorite spot, nature, a person. Okay, so you can close your eyes if you like, do not have to. And just recalling that pleasant experience, having it in your mind's eye. Who's there? Maybe any sights with your eyes, colors, people, places. Any sounds that you recall as you think about that experience. Maybe any smells. And noticing in your body as you recall that experience, any sensations in the body. The shoulders, the face, chest. And noticing any emotions that accompany that experience or that are just arising now as you think about that experience. Emotions, feelings. And then what thoughts do you notice in your mind as you're recalling that experience. Thoughts about yourself, thoughts about the other person, if there is another person. And then overall, just noticing how you feel. And then as we come near a close, perhaps giving thanks for that experience, that person, yourself. And then we'll come to a close. I'll just ring the bell. Okay, so recalling a pleasant experience there. Now, any feedback? What did you notice in doing that? In your body? Thoughts, feelings?
I felt really calm, and it was interesting because the image that I had, I think, came directly from talking about feeling unsafe and kind of the daily assaults from the news. I had just seen The Atlantic puts out a photo journal every week, and it's pictures of the week. And there was this incredibly tender picture of a hippo with its hippo baby on its nose. And it was the most gentle, placid, sweet photo. And I showed Michael because I said, look at this photo. And it's from Mexico. And I just was thinking about the hippo, and I think it was that secure, calm, safe space that that hippo had on his mama's nose.
Nice. Great. And it gave you a sense of calm. Yeah.
Peace, just this peaceful, serene feeling.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, if I can ask, just because you spoke before, did you have any kind of different experience or?
I did. It's like a really nice feeling, a nice lightheadedness on the back of my skull. And yeah, just feeling really relaxed, just recalling like a really, really joyful memory.
Wonderful. And Jonathan, any switches for you there? Since if you want to say.
Yeah, it just is calming, safe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when we notice it in the body, when we pay attention to the internal bodily sensations through our breath, through awareness, it helps to start really shifting those neural pathways in the brain. Because the body is connected to the brain, right? And so whether that's through mindful awareness, or maybe you're a dancer, and when you're in that state of dancing and you feel the breath and you feel the body sensations, you're in it. Or maybe golfing, you're in it with breath, with your body. And let me look at my note here. And so the insula, part of your brain, tracks the internal states of the body intimately. And it's involved with your senses and with your feelings. And when we strengthen this part of our brain, the insula, it heightens our capacity for empathy. So there's been a lot of research around that. And so bringing in kindness, noticing these pleasant experiences is communicating, firing different neurons in the brain that activate, for one, the insula, and that does activate empathy in us. So there's been a lot of research from neuroscientists who have touched that. Yes, so crucial for empathy is the insula. Okay, so we are going to come to the last slide. But before I do this, that's the application. I just want to give you 3 things that back to Rick Hansen, who I quoted in the beginning. To balance our bias, we want to build up implicit memories, and we want to build up these pleasant experiences and heighten our awareness of them so we can tilt that negativity bias. Okay, so we're sort of building up our bank account of pleasant experiences, so this negativity bias is not running the show. We have something else. So he says 3 things. 1, turn positive events into positive experiences. So it's not just an event, oh, that was really fun and da da da. We really take time to take it in, which is number 2. We savor it. We take 10, 20, 30 seconds. Who doesn't have 10, 20, 30 seconds? I know we might not feel like we do sometimes, but 10, 20, 30 seconds to sit with that pleasant experience that we're just passing through in our day, because there are many, even if it's the warm water on our hands when we're washing our hands 100 times a day. You know, wow, I turn on my faucet, I have warm water. Take that in. Not everybody does. Billions of people don't actually. So turn the positive event into a positive experience. Savor it 10, 20, 30 seconds. Bring it into your body just like we did with those 2 practices. It gives it, and why you stay with it 10, 20, or 30 seconds, it gives the neurons time to rewire. It gives them time to take that in. Like, oh yeah, oh, that is pleasant. Oh, my stomach's calming. I mean, we're not noticing all that consciously. 90 to 95% of what our brain perceives and responds to, the cues are non-conscious. So even when we're putting our attention on those dahlias, I keep looking at my dahlias over here. I'm like, oh, such joy. That's a piece of it. My whole body is in action and those neurons are firing. So that's number 2, savor it 10, 20, 30 seconds. Number 3, sense this sense this positive experience is sinking into you. Sense that it's sinking into you. It's becoming woven into the fabric of your brain, into the fabric of your being. So we are taking in the good. We're spending some time with it throughout the day if we can. Maybe before we go to bed at night. Does anybody go to bed and like rehash what didn't work? Like, oh God, why did I say that? And oh man, next time I can't believe she looked at me that way. And oh, I'm such an idiot. Whatever the thought process is, you know, and you try to go to sleep to that, you're on stress activation. So if you even try this before you go to sleep, it's a way to think about your day and like what went well. So we're kind of tricking that negativity bias, like you're not going to get me now. So we actively, consciously have an intention, make it a priority. I'm going to think about what worked in my day, what went well. And so lastly, we do want to look at how to apply this and what you can take away. So notice and savor a pleasant experience in the moment, talked about it. Watch your words, you know, meaning how we talk to others, but also what are we telling ourselves? You know, how are we getting down on ourselves? Probably more than we would with anybody in our, you know, any of our friends. Cultivate gratitude, kindness, generosity. That activates this you know, the brain. Consider your thoughts, your movie as you go to bed at night. So we all have a movie, like we saw that man in Manhattan. It's like, is your movie playing this chaos, or is your your movie? I've been talking so much this week. I'm telling you, I'm tripping over my words now. Your movie playing, you know, beautiful music that you love. And sometimes it's going to be hectic and chaotic, and that's, you know, that's just natural, but just notice. And then maybe sometimes you can shift it. Like, I want to shift my perspective right now. What can I see that's good with this? How can I turn off the news and put on nice music? How can I prime myself for sleep when I go to bed at night? Create an intention for the day when you wake up. Help create your movie. Even if by the end of the day, you're like, what intention was it? I lost it. That's okay. Try again. You know, maybe you'll have moments of remembering it. Pop, you know, pause, observe, proceed. Just while you're waiting for a Zoom meeting to start, and check in with yourself throughout the day. Noticing your thoughts, moving in and out. What are you telling yourself? In a challenging conversation, practice this inner listening. We did this last week a little bit, right? Or last time we met, when you talked with each other and you watched what arose in yourself. Same kind of thing. Is there judgment? Is there aversion? Is there distraction? Maybe a little more openness? could help the conversation. So just noticing that inner listening. And then I wanted to ask you as we close, any other ideas that you might have, or any of these things that particularly speak to you?
There's just one thing that just pops into my head, and that is be careful what you put into your head. And that is so important. This last week, I had a conversation with a client who expressed a concern that she had stopped meditating. A couple weeks ago, not a big deal, but in place of meditation, she'd spend time on Facebook. And, so you stop taking all the good stuff in and you start taking all the shit of the world in, and that changes your perspective, and it changes your perspective wicked fast. And she was just, I don't know why I feel so bad about stuff, and I'm like, well, I don't know for sure, but this is something I'd look at, less meditation, more Facebook might hurt your mental state.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes. Watch what you're taking in. That's great. I'd love to hear what happens if she goes back and starts practicing. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so what, do you have one thing? I always love you to leave with one thing that you can take away. So you can just popcorn it out. What's a takeaway for you from today?
I'm going to try to generate more positive.
Pop activity. Pause and observe and proceed.
Okay.
What did you say, Catherine? I missed that.
I said I'm going to try to generate more positive thoughts to combat the negative ones. That 5-to-1 concept is really intriguing to me.
That's John Gottman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like the idea of savoring, sitting with a pleasant experience and letting it perpetuate.
I like the idea of setting it down.
I've been working on it, but you remind me to pay closer attention to cultivating gratitude, kindness, and generosity.
I keep thinking of the clip of Manhattan or the city with the different music, and it's such a visual kind of rendition of how our perspective changes the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So,
a big takeaway for me was just remembering like a positive experience we had throughout the day that I don't do enough of, and it really helped me. So I'll try to do that more.
Great.
My new idea, or to add to the list, is say thank you.
Mm.
It really means something to the recipient.
Mm-hmm.
John.
Thank you for adding that.
Down here it says leave.
Thank
you.
Go ahead, Irving.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
So welcome.
Thanks, Terry.
All right. All right. Anybody else before we, just if you have a dying thing to, pressing thing to say?
Do you know how to close?
Yeah, there's something to right over there.
Thanks, Terry.
You're so
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Guys, everybody be safe.
Bye, Catherine. Bye, Nancy. Bye,
have a
Joan.
smile.
Yeah, Michael, Lisa, Mary, Paul, Peter.